Have you started yet?
Sorry, Alice.
I was just saying, have you started yet, or are we waiting for something?
Now, I could talk about that. Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that then, shall we, Alice? What we're waiting for. What are we waiting for, Alice?
Probably for other people to show up.
No, I really wasn't waiting for anyone else to turn up. I was just waiting for something to say.
Okay.
Sometimes there's plenty to say. And once I get started, of course, you know I can't shut up. But quite often, if I'm just sitting and there's nothing to say, because essentially there's nothing to say about this.
You had a wonderful piece last week about death. And I suppose I just wanted to hear that again. It was so powerful to me. And that's one of the reasons I'm a little disappointed I can't hear the audio again. And but anyway, that's just me. That was a fantastic piece.
Well, if I don't speak about death and you want me to, Alice, then just prompt me a bit later.
All right.
Just a quick one as well. We might be able to, Alice did mention that last week that she wanted the audio. We might be able to just email her the audio.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just couldn't put it up on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. An audio is not a big file, so probably can just email.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Darren.
I'll sort that out.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Then we don't have to talk about death.
But as Alice has given me something to speak about, I'll just mention the waiting game again. If you've heard me before, then you've heard me speak about it quite a bit. The nature of self is waiting. Waiting for something else. Waiting for something other than what is. And of course, the waiting is it too, but there is nothing to wait for. There is nothing to come. There is nothing that will be. It doesn't get any better than this. And really, essentially, that's what self is. It's the waiting for it to be better than this. You know, this is okay, but I could see lots of improvements that could be made. Whereas this can't be improved upon. This is always exactly as it is. And I'm not saying that philosophically. It's just a straightforward statement of how it is. How is life? Life is exactly as it is. That's all this message is really saying. But I always say that it could be different. And quite often I say it should be different. Not just that it could be, but it should be. This is not the way it should be. Life should be different than it is. That's the nature of me. Never quite good enough, is it? There's always something to be improved on. And by improved on, I mean not necessarily gained, but lost. There's this bit about me that I need to lose. And I don't just mean a few inches off my waistline. Could do with losing those. But there's material things that I could get rid of, and I could replace them with something better. There's things about myself that I don't like. So I could improve on that. And then, of course, I can go out into the world and I can look at how I could improve the world. And there's nothing wrong with that. But of course, the world isn't interested in your ideas of how it might be improved. What interest would life have in your views on how to improve it? It's the pure arrogance of self. And there's nothing wrong with it, but there's really no need. And without our memory of how it was, what does improvement mean? It's only in comparison. It used to be better than this. I think particularly I think it's always the nature of self does that anyway, but it seems even more prevalent at the moment. It does feel that way. Everyone's waiting until this is over. Until we get through this. If we all pull together, we can get through this. Well, there is no getting through this. There's nothing to get through. This isn't leading anywhere. It's not leading to a better or a worse future. This is always exactly as it is, isn't it? It's not any other way. And that the way it is not really relevant. Of course, it's immensely relevant to me and my story. But that's its only relevance. Everything is always only relevant in relation to me and the story that I tell about my life and my friends' lives and the world's life, the Earth's life, as though somehow they're distinct, that there are all these separate lives and each one is owned, each one is a separate existence. And of course, each one can influence the other ones. And all of those stories, they're just beautiful stories. And I'm not talking about the end of stories. It's really all we have. We only have the stories we tell each other. What else is there? Well, what there is without those, you can't say. But whether you can say it or not, here it is. You know, what is left without the stories? If you take the stories away, or the stories are just seen for what they are, then you can't help but, the self can't help but ask, well, what is left in their place? So in the absence of those, what am I left with? Well, then words fail. And then you can just attempt to say what this is. And it doesn't really matter what you say about it. And in that is the great freedom. You know, if we're talking, if this is worth talking about, it's worth saying that the freedom is in the not knowing. You haven't got a clue. So what's going on? I don't know what's going on. But there can seem to be an end of that need to know. That's that sense that, well, if I don't know what's going on, then it will all collapse. It will all fall apart. And in fact, the contrary is true. There is nothing to fall apart. That you know, there may be the sense that, well, without me, all will be lost. And yet there's nothing to lose. Without the one that was holding on, the one that needed to hold on for dear life, there's just life. And life isn't holding on. Got a really itchy nose. Sorry. I'm gonna have to blow my nose. Sorry about that. I thought it's probably best I don't show you my ablutions. So does anybody want to ask anything or say anything? Share anything? Hi, Michael.
Hi, Tim. Granted, it's just another story, but we were discussing in another group about this thing that we have named awareness, and the possibility that it was, instead of a thing in itself, it was a gradient that possibly could range from the slightest intuition of things unknown to the solidification that occurs in the naming of things. And again, granted, it's just another story, but awareness is thought about as, when awareness is thought about a thing in itself, somehow it separates it and becomes a solidification when, well, I was just thinking perhaps everything is a gradient. But do you have any impressions or ideas on the possibility that what we think of as awareness is more of a gradient, more of a fluid thing that not a thing, but an objectification
Yeah.
that is actually ranges from something very nebulous up to the solidification of things and the formation of self?
Yeah. Well, you may have noticed I don't mention awareness, Michael, because I don't have any idea. I don't have any ideas about awareness. It's never, I guess what never, you could say, if I tell a story about how it is here, then there was never any objectification of awareness as a thing. So I never went looking for it. I've never even thought about it, if I'm honest. So for me, awareness is just an idea that that we can take as maybe that's an answer. You know, that maybe that will help me understand. There's this thing called awareness, and that could help me understand what these what these people have been speaking about that I've been listening to. They've been speaking about awareness, and maybe if I understood that. And I think if you want to find something, if self is looking for something and really wants to find it, then it can find it, create it. And I don't. So both words, awareness and consciousness, I've never had any sense of them. I've always guessed that what I call emptiness is what other people are referring to as awareness. And what I might call nothing, other people call consciousness, but I have no idea. And so consciousness, to me, emptiness seems a much better way of speaking about this, this not knowing, because emptiness, at least, you know, on a very simple level, every human being can envisage, oh, that's empty, so it doesn't have any. I mean, don't get me wrong, you always have to almost envisage a container that is empty. You know, so there's something that's empty, but it's an empty something. And so what the words awareness and consciousness try and objectify and try and make sense of is this emptiness that is empty of a container as well as, so it's empty of emptiness, and it's also full of everything, and there's no I can't see that awareness or consciousness are of any value, really. I don't ever have, they don't mean anything. Don't get me wrong, emptiness doesn't mean anything either. But it seems a bit clearer to me. You know, because if you say empty to a child would have some capacity to understand emptiness. Whereas if you said awareness and consciousness to a child, that's quite elaborate. There's a lot of elaborate thinking involved in trying to formulate what that actually means. So I guess just as in my seeking, when Tim was looking for what, he didn't know what, but he was looking, whenever he heard consciousness or awareness, they just did not resonate at all. They just didn't mean anything. So I never gave them any credence at all. And they still don't appear when I speak about this. And that doesn't make it right, you know, that this is a better way of speaking about it or anything. But I just think they're so abstract, aren't they? They're such abstract ideas. Yeah.
Just swept.
And as for gradient, as for you know, there being a gradient of depth, or I don't sense that this has any depth. Don't get me wrong, you could say it's infinitely deep, but the depth needs a bottom, doesn't it? So an ocean has depth because there's an ocean floor. Okay. So the whole conceptualizing this in terms of depth and going deeper, and deeper is somehow closer, because you need to be getting closer to a bottom, you know, whether that will be the final understanding or the final knowing. I don't have any sense that that's how this is.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah. I mean, I do use the word emptiness instead, I guess. And I hear other speakers, and they're always speaking of awareness, or some are speaking of awareness and some are speaking of consciousness. And I have noticed that some speakers, when they're speaking of consciousness, are speaking of awareness, the awareness that another speaker speaks about, and the consciousness that one speaks about, that's awareness for the other person. Yeah. And so that's good enough reason not to use them, I think.
Do you gather deeper insights as you move along this sublime unknowingness?
I don't know. My gut reaction would be no, but there's no doubt I speak differently than I did a while ago. But that doesn't seem to involve any great insight, though. It seems just like everything else seems to change. It seems a long time ago, if I'm thinking of the story of Tim, it seems a long time ago since I had an insight. I've got a sense that insight is for me. I don't have insight, really. I feel I know less and less. I'm certain about less and less, and yet that uncertainty has a certainty to it. It's very paradoxical. It seems the less I'm certain of what I know, the more confidence there is to say that, for what that's worth. It's not worth anything. But I think there's a real misconception that knowledge, insight, understanding, that leads to confidence, and that leads to peace of mind, you could say. That leads to greater freedom, greater peace, greater love. But love and peace have no truck with knowledge. It's just, I mean, it's neither relevant nor irrelevant. I don't think they have any significance at all.
Take up too much time, but do you temper your speaking to those who come into your bubble with either say, deep depression or bipolar, people who are bipolar or suffering from a very deep depression, do you find yourself tempering what you say to soften it?
Yeah, on a one-to-one, definitely, yeah. I just think that's natural. That's just natural compassion. I don't think I do it consciously. No, I just think it's yeah. I tend not to do it here because I don't really know who's listening. Not really. In a large group, you can't really do that. But one-to-one, I just think it's naturally how we engage with each other. It is, the whole myth is that without me, then I wouldn't be compassionate to each individual's way their life is, or life is for them. Of course, it's not true at all, Michael. That's a complete, it's one of the lies that self tells, that I'm required. It's me that I'm the compassionate one. Whereas, of course, it's not. It's me, the selfish one. I'm always more concerned about myself than anyone else. And there's much more open compassion.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's another scare story that self tells itself, that I'm the compassionate one, I'm the loving one, I'm the helpful one. As well as being all the negatives as well. But it scares itself that, well, if I was, if I wasn't here, then there would be none of that. There would be no love, there would be no compassion, there'd be no kindness, because I'm the one that's kind. It's nonsense. Has anybody else got anything they'd like to ask?
Hi.
Hi, Jara.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you just tell me about, you said that when you realized you just saw everything was so empty.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mean like empty of like all meaning and purpose and that kind of empty?
Yeah, I do mean that kind of empty, but it's empty. Is empty in a way that is indescribable. It's empty on all levels. So yeah, I could say empty of meaning, and yet, of course, everything still had its meaning, but the meaning didn't mean anything anymore. So it's an emptiness that's full. It's an emptiness. So if there's meaning, the meaning doesn't mean anything. So if there's purpose, purpose can be, you could say, oh yeah, that's for that. But that doesn't mean anything. That's purposeless, whatever purpose something has. So it's not that anything is lost with the emptiness. It's really very, very hard to describe. So everything is just as it is, as well as not being what it is. So the emptiness is, it's not what it appears to be, but it still appears to be what it is, though. I will say initially in the falling away, here's a bit of storytelling. In the initial falling away, then the emptiness seemed completely overwhelming, because it was very obvious there was nothing to be done with anything. There really wasn't anything. And I said to my brother a number of times when he'd asked me how I was, and I'd go, I'd probably say I'm fucked or something like that. And he'd go, well, what do you mean? I went, well, what am I going to do now? What the hell am I going to do now? He said, what do you mean? I said, well, there's nothing to do. Everything's so empty. And the emptiness just seemed completely overwhelming. It was very. And so because I didn't know what to do, then I didn't do anything. And there seemed in the story there was a long period of doing really nothing. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't do much now. I wouldn't want you to think I'm busy or anything, but but at least I am, you know, I'm doing, you know, there's some doing going on. But so if I'm telling a tale about how it was overwhelmingly empty, and so it was very, very disconcerting, the emptiness, overwhelmingly so. And then you could say in the story, seemingly over time, the emptiness became normal, rather than, because it was shocking in comparison to everything being what it was, you know, just being real, you could say. So going from everything being real to everything being unreal is a hell of a shock to the system. You know, this system, like, what the fuck? What? You know, totally dumbfounding. And I wouldn't say it was bad. That wasn't bad. The leading up to the emptiness was really dreadful. The emptiness itself was neither good nor bad, just bloody empty. But but then emptiness is just that. And so everything's remained empty, but it seemingly is what it is, as well as empty. I know. I mean, that's just a tale. That doesn't mean anything. But that is, yeah, that's how it seemed, Jahara. For what that's worth.
I feel like it's like, yay, everything's empty. Yay, thank God. Oh. And I was just like, it's just so beautiful. It feels so, I love it. Because now it's like, oh, I could just relax then.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I could just, this just makes everything so much better.
Yeah, everything is much better with the emptiness rather than just the full-on being what it is. Because of course everything when it's completely real, when everything is absolutely really all those things, they are making massive demands on me, aren't they? Because they all need seeing to, they all need looking at, they all need caring for. But don't get me wrong, in the emptiness, the kids start screaming and, you know, where's my dinner, or I've pissed my pants. They still need changing, and don't get me wrong, all that shit still happens. So really the only difference you could say is that, you know, as well as the bliss is empty, and the shit is empty as well. And there's great peace in that.
Yeah. I'm so grateful for you for that, because I do feel peace. And I come to listen to you just, not because I'm seeking anymore, but wow, yeah, it feels so nice to hear that. Oh, okay. It could just be peace, and that's good. And this is just fine. It's just that's it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thanks, Shahara. That's lovely. But the peace doesn't mean that everything is peaceful. That's the other misconception. So there's peace in, all hell breaking loose. But all hell breaking loose still appears to be all hell breaking loose. One thing goes wrong at home, and then another thing, and then another thing. Well, it doesn't mean that the human being remains in a state of peace. This is not about being in a certain, constant state of bliss or peace, or it's not about any way. Whatever I'm speaking about is not about life being a certain way. It's about life being the way it is. And of course, that's always, every way. Yeah. I always really struggled with those teachings that were talking about how you could find, well, that you could find what you were looking for. Well, the only thing that's become very, very obvious is you don't know what you're looking for. And if you did know what you were looking for, you wouldn't want it. Because essentially what self is looking for is something for itself. That's what you've always wanted. Now, this isn't what you've wanted. This is what there is. And that is all there is. And in a way, this message is really harsh because it's saying, life's not interested in what you want. There was only ever you interested. Even your nearest and dearest who said they were interested in your hopes and dreams and goals, they weren't interested. Not at all. It was always a totally self-centered exercise that you called your life. Pretending it was leading somewhere. This isn't leading anywhere. And all the pieces in there, obviousness that this isn't moving forward. No matter how much it appears that it is. It's not going to another place. And actually, there's no continuation. There's not. Thanks, Jahara.
Tim, Shirag or Kirag, has his hand up?
Yeah, hi, Tim.
Hi, hi. How do I pronounce your name?
It's Chirag.
Chigag?
Chirag, yeah.
Chirag.
Yeah. So hi, Tim. Thank you so much. So I have a question. I know it's a silly question. So if you feel like not answering the...
Chirag, all questions are silly questions.
Okay. So the question goes like this. So I was just thinking about this coronavirus thing. Like it seems like the humans and the virus, they are fighting with each other. And, sometimes So, and within just 1 year, this scientist community have come up with a solution, a vaccine.
Yeah.
So I was just sitting and thinking that is it even a possibility that uh, because in ancient time it used to be a very rare phenomena like Buddha or Jesus or Krishna. It was said that they appear once in a century or millennium.
Yeah.
But these days it looks like more and more me's are falling away, especially
Yeah.
after Tony Parsons. So and yeah,
Yeah. Don't
so
give Tony too much credit.
okay. Okay. So I was just thinking that is it even a possibility that when a lot of people will start reporting the same thing, that there is no me and things like that, the scientist community will start researching on the brains of these people, and they will come to a conclusion that the brains have started functioning in a different way, because at the end of the day they believe that it's all a chemical reaction. Whatever you experience, I
Oh,
know it's not an experience, and they will
yeah.
come up with a drug or an injection or something like that which
Oh,
they will
yeah.
inject, and the me will come back, and then people will start feeling that, oh, it was just like you know what I mean. So I just want
I
to
do know.
want to know.
I do know what you mean. Yeah. Well, what a lovely fantasy. What a dreadful fantasy. But of course, pharmaceutical companies, if they could get hold of an enlightenment drug, oh, that would be marketed tomorrow.
No, not
Yeah.
enlightenment. I was saying that anti-enlightenment. I mean, to reverse the
Yeah.
enlightenment.
Well, whatever you're calling what we're speaking about, what do you call it?
I know it's a silly question. I just wanted to know.
No. Well, the thing is, you started by saying, is there a possibility?
Yeah, absolutely. Because
And the answer to that is absolutely no.
okay. No,
There's
why I
no.
was asking
There's
this question is that because scientists always believe that if you would go to a scientist, they would say that anything, I mean, whatever, because it's a chemical factory,
yeah,
the body.
yeah.
So it looks like if we change a certain combination of the chemicals, then they can, by genetic engineering and everything, they believe that they can do everything, like
Yeah.
kind of.
Well, yeah. Well, science is very arrogant. There's so maybe it is chemical, maybe it is, I don't know, synaptic, maybe, who knows? Who knows? But I don't. It's of no relevance. And as to what might happen in the future, you know, it's all possibilities and no possibility, because there isn't a future. So, but anything can happen, yeah. So the answer to your question is yes and no.
Okay, thank you so much.
But I don't think it's going to be a big seller, this, this new, because why not just take ecstasy? Why, yeah, you might as well just take a mood enhancing drug if you want to feel better. I think you're overestimating how popular this message is, Chirag. I don't think it's not that popular. So pharmaceutical companies, they want millions of sales. They don't want, a few hundred. So I don't think your new liberation drug that Pfizer are bringing out soon is going to sell. I just don't think it's going to sell very well. I mean, some of you lot might try it, but you try it and go, oh God, yeah, fake again. It's not worked. I'm still. You wake up and you go, no, I'm still here. So there is no possibility. I mean, talking of possibilities, I mean, it's completely paradoxical because, of course, this is all possibilities, but possibility is always talking about what's to come, and there isn't anything, So, of course, anything is possible, but nothing is possible. And that doesn't make sense, but it's talking about time. Possibility is all in time. This message doesn't have anything to say about what the future will be, you know, or how the world might look, or what's happening to humanity. When I hear people speak about, you know, that there's a great awakening, or, you know, that this isn't, oh, and the other thing you said about this seeming to be much more common. Well, of course, it's going to seem much more common when so we've got this meeting here with people from 5 different continents, probably. And so, I mean, where would we have met before the internet? So it seems because we're in this bubble, this non-duality bubble, it seems like, oh, it's happening to everyone. Well, I can't emphasize enough, nothing happens. This isn't going to happen to you. If there's one thing that's the most obvious, nothing happened to Tim. I can tell a story about it, but nothing happened. And I know you're waiting until it happens. So you're waiting for nothing to happen, and for sure, nothing will happen. That is such a shit thing to say, isn't it?
No, thank you so much.
I know, but it really isn't. It really isn't. So what seemed to happen was nothing.
So Tim, is emptiness compassion in disguise?
Sorry, who's that? Who's that?
Ian.
Hi, Ian.
Hi.
Compassion in disguise. I don't know. I don't think it's in disguise, because it's everything. So it's, you could say it's disguised as everything. That's quite a good disguise. Oh, that's sort of taking that's sort of Tony Parsons' language. That is, you know, if you wanted to hide, where's the best place to hide? Well, everywhere, as everything. And then of course it won't be seen.
Yeah, well,
you could
me
say
stays alive.
that is the emptiness. Yeah. So everything is empty. But whether that emptiness is compassion as well as everything else.
But it's like emptiness could be a pointer to compassion, because once you realize that everything's empty, then it sort of gives this release.
Yeah.
The mystery no longer exists, and it's a piss off, but it's very sort of helpful as well.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. And really, that's what we're speaking of, is freedom from that sense that I always have to be vigilant and look after myself. Yeah. So of course, without all the energy of this human being put into looking after myself, looking out for myself, concern for myself. By the way, that could be, I'm a compassionate person, so I have to be seen to be compassionate. You know, because my self-image is wrapped up in being compassionate. That isn't the compassion that I'm speaking about. That's like, you know, a lot of the most selfless people are utterly selfish in their selflessness. The compassion, yeah, emptiness. Okay, I'll just say, you asked me, is it emptiness, compassion in disguise? I could say yes.
Well, I am talking in Tony Parsons type of voice there, because he's saying that compassion is, the only real compassion is pointing out this empty fullness.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of that.
Yeah.
And just the release from all this hunting for something around the corner, right?
Yeah, I do agree. I searched for years I tried very hard for years to understand what Tony meant by this is the only compassion. He said it a lot.
It's his best one of his best statements, though. It just blew my mind when he said that, because it just tears everything apart, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because self believes itself to be the one who's compassionate, the one who's loving. And self could never even, the trouble is, as a seeker, as me, I can't ever really see that, because of course it's empty. It's an empty compassion.
Well, I think he wants compassion from somebody else, like the guru
Yeah.
or my
Yeah.
mother or my father.
Yeah.
He wants compassion from the outside, doesn't want to just let the whole idea go.
No. And if I was telling a story without that need for compassion for myself, then yeah, the human being is freed up. All that energy is freed up to be compassionate naturally. It was never mine. None of it was ever mine. None of it is ever yours, Ian. You know, whether you call it yours or not, whether we're talking about compassion or anger, you know, whether we're talking about something positive or seemingly negative, none of it was ever yours. It's not yours. It's natural. And compassion is absolutely natural.
So there's nothing reactive in emptiness then. Because that's reactivity, right? You're getting angry, you're basically
thing
saying
is,
I'm important. So
well, reactivity is the nature of life.
of course it keeps you self-centered.
But without self, you know, the whole idea that I'm doing the reacting, see, that's another story told by self. Reacting naturally happens.
To who?
No. To human beings.
So it comes back to the emptiness then again.
Yeah. Yeah. But it can sound like, okay, so emptiness is the answer and it's emptiness doing the reacting. Emptiness isn't doing anything. All the reactions are empty.
Already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just claimed by. All we're really speaking about is that the claiming of life can end. Seem to. And there's so much more peace in that. The emptiness is the peace. Scott. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.
Hey everyone. Hey Tim.
Hey, Scott.
Oh, you're having a great meeting today. Thank you.
Thanks.
You know, it's so exciting when you first get here, but it's just nothing, not wanting anything, not going anywhere. It's almost like you could see why you were so interested in watching the theater of the reactions of people or the government or whatever, because it's the appearance of things going on, because just sitting in this isn't easy. It's just, you don't know what you want. Everything's the same. Every now and then I think I need a little break and I go watch the spinning wheel again, because it's hard to get used to this nothingness. It's almost like my body has to change or something.
Yeah, it can feel like that, can't it? Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a sadness too, kind of, and not, you know, we're used to thinking, oh, this is just a phase and there'll be another phase. But this could be like the phase that doesn't go away anymore. And then that's kind of scary. Or what you said, the ocean doesn't have a bottom. I mean,
no.
What have we gotten ourselves into,
well,
Tim?
Yeah. And the thing about phases is that I mean, this is the end of there aren't any phases. We can tell, you know, other than the story, we tell a story about, oh yeah, I went through a phase of that and then that. And now this, well, we didn't go through any phases. There's no passing through. You know, this isn't passing. This is this isn't a phase. But yeah, the emptiness does, as I told a bit of my story, the emptiness can seem to take some getting used to. And really what it was here, the getting used to, was what the hell am I going to do? What do I do with this? What do I do with emptiness? Well, there's a really simple answer to that. You ain't doing anything with emptiness. What are you going to make out of it? I don't know. What am I going to mold it to begin with? It ain't going to be molded. You're not making your own new creation out of emptiness. You're not going to, you know, manipulate it and make it fit. But that is all the piece that has ever been spoken about this, is in that there is nothing to be done with emptiness. What the hell are you going to do with that? You could say that's what allows this to be spoken about. The fact that there is no sense of there's a problem in speaking about this. There's nothing you can do with this. And in that, there's just freedom for anything to be done. So again, it's all paradoxical. But then when there's nothing to be done, then there's freedom for doing to be done in any way, shape or form. When it's not my doing. When it's no one's doing. Doing just gets done. I mean, you must notice it.
Maybe that's the hardest part of the story to let go of.
Well, I don't think
that I do things.
I don't think me can let go of it. That's my sense, and that's only because of my story. But it's very, very obvious that I didn't let go of anything. I held on for dear life. No matter what I said I was looking to let go. I said I wanted to surrender. I said I wanted to give myself up. I fucking didn't. Self is utterly interested in itself, nothing else. Its own utter insignificance, even greater than insignificance, its own non-existence. You know, you're not going to give that up. Of course you're not. You are that illusion of existence. That's what you are. That's what you've told yourself you are. That's what self tells itself. That without me, there wouldn't be anything. Well, so
it looks like you get some.
I always struggle with teachings of surrender. I always did. I didn't really know why, but when I was really madly seeking, it was only messages that spoke in this way that resonated. If they talked about me becoming more surrendered, more accepting, more at peace, just somehow it just seemed like, well, that ain't gonna happen. I'm a mess. I'm a mess. How am I going to become surrendered and serene and peaceful? I'm a fuck up. How would that ever? It just seemed complete bollocks from the very beginning. And I'm guessing some of you have tried it and you go, well, that obviously is bollocks. That's just more of the same shit that I've been trying.
Well, you think you get somewhere, and then the next day it's almost like, here we go again. And I guess what happens is you just get tired of that little, are we going to go back? That fades away. That kind of, do I go back into it? Or could I, or was I, or that question. I like when you said all questions are silly, because in a way that's what it is. It's just a silly tendency that we have to want to participate in this movie that's out there, or tell ourselves that we do. So
we don't. There's no way self doesn't want to be in the movie anymore, because that's what we're saying. So this message is saying, Okay, you thought you were in the movie. You thought you were one of the key players, only in your little bit of the movie, but you know, you were one of the stars. In fact, you are the star. And self isn't going to give that up to be an anonymous extra in the crowd scene. Yeah. But that's what it craves. It craves the peace. You know, all of you have felt that. You know, I've had enough of being the star of this show. It stinks.
Would you say that the nothing wants recognition in a way? That there's something in the whole program that wants recognition or not?
No, not at all. No,
it's
there's
okay
nothing.
Just to be anonymous and invisible.
I have to say, there's no recognition of nothing. There's nothing to recognize. Somebody asked me the other day about clarity, and they said, you know, have I gained more clarity, you know, greater clarity? Or it might have been a compliment. She said, oh, you speak with great clarity. And I said, yeah, it's so clear, there's nothing to see. And that is really, that's how it is. This isn't seen. There's nothing to be seen. This isn't an insight.
It's totally useless.
There's no. This doesn't have any value at all. What we're speaking of, none. If it had value, I couldn't speak about it. I don't think. They couldn't be speaking about it because, of course, I would be trying to add value to your life. This is all values and no value at all.
Thanks, Tim.
And the greatest freedom is knowing that there is just freedom. There isn't any freedom to come. There isn't any peace to come. There isn't any heaven to come. It's just this. And this is completely inclusive. There isn't any exception. I mean, that's the love. The reason I can speak of this as love is because it doesn't exclude. And of course, if it was a certain way, if it was about a way of being, then of course it wouldn't be inclusive. It would be exclusive. It would be conditional. This doesn't have any conditions. It is all conditions. And the love and the peace and the freedom is all in that there is no doer. There is no one having a say over how this is. You have not had an emotion. You're not feeling what you're feeling. There is just feeling. You're not seeing what's being seen. You don't even know there's seeing, if I'm honest, or feeling. And feeling and seeing are not separate. This is absolutely whole and complete. This is just, it's not even one. It's everything, and everything is empty. But it's all just happening without any meaning or purpose or direction, without a reason. And it's without the reason, without cause. One of the most beautifully freeing aspects of this being as it is that there is no justice. This isn't a just world. This isn't about making everything right. There simply is no right and wrong. And freedom from right and wrong is immeasurable, because how hard have you tried to be right, to make yourself right, to make yourself whole, to make yourself okay? Because there's so many aspects of yourself that don't feel okay. And this is liberation for all those aspects of what you called yourself. They were never yours. Just a human being naturally a human being. You don't have to know what that is for it to be exactly as it is. You don't need to know anything about life for life to be completely known. This is absolutely known without any knowledge. It's the exact opposite of what we've been taught, really, throughout our lives. You know, that knowledge would bring us closer. Understanding would bring us even closer. Insight would bring us closer. Closer to what? There is no closer or further away. There's neither any escape nor any return. You know, how much have you longed to return home? You've had this sense of being estranged from home. I remember that intensely. You know, and you long to return home. There is no one to return. This never went away. This can't move away. And there is no separation between you, what you've called you, and this. That's it.
Can I say one thing, Tim, before you go?
Joey.
I just have this strong feeling that oh God, how do I said it so nicely in my mind earlier. I'm trying to get back to it's like this death is the great embracer of all things, in the sense that at the end of it, you know, like whatever you think your life story is anyway, you're gonna die and none of it matters. All of it gonna, you know?
Yeah.
It's just dissolving into that is the great is the great relief at the end. What was feared the most is what's the warmest embrace that you can ever even imagine.
Exactly. Yeah, that's nice, Joey.
Yeah. Well, I go out on top, so.
No, that's nice, Joey. And the embrace is what I talk about as nothing or as empty. The emptiness is the embrace. You would think emptiness is cold. You would think emptiness is dark. You would think emptiness is everything that you've feared. And I've talked before about how afraid of the dark I was as a child, you know, and it's just that fear of not knowing. Whereas not knowing is the embrace, as Joey puts it beautifully. Yeah, this is always embraced as nothing, as empty. Whoever thought that emptiness was the was the embrace? It's the exact antithesis of everything we were ever taught. Right. Well, I've gone over time because I've enjoyed myself as ever. Thanks very much for coming, everybody. And if you would like to come to the Nothing FM thing show on Wednesday, just go to Nothing FM. I can't give you the Zoom link or anything. If you would like to come to that, which you're really very welcome to come to, on Wednesday at forgotten the time. Do you remember the time, Darren? No.
No.
Just go to Nothing FM website and just go to the Tim Cliss thing, and yeah, you have to enroll with them. But it's free. How it's going to be different from this show, I'm not exactly sure. You know, how I'm going to up my game and make it more of a show, I'm not sure. I've actually been thinking about that. So this is a show rather than a meeting. So what do I need to do to make it a show? You know, puppets, animals, some kind of circus act, song and dance.
It's Tim, it's 5 p.m. UK time, 12 p.m. Eastern time. And if you go to nothing.fm, the website, you can register there. Oh,
thanks. Yeah. So it's in, yeah. So you're more than welcome to come to that. And yeah, so I'm busy this week. I've got a meeting on Thursday as well, which you're always welcome to. So thanks very much for coming. As Rogia has just said, donations are very welcome. Now, I didn't prompt him to do that, but I do appreciate him saying that. Yeah, all donations are always welcome. So thanks very much for coming, and maybe see you Wednesday or Thursday.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.